My mother's voice was a low whisper, a conspiratorial hiss across the dinner table. "Don't you be jealous of your brother." That was the moment I stood up. I revealed the 4 years of financial transfers totaling $26,670 and said, "Then tell him it's his turn to pay all the bills." The evening my father casually joked that I'd never measure up to my brother, I deliberately placed my fork down on my plate and mentally picked up 4 years' worth of receipts. In that sharp, echoing silence, I finally understood that the punchline of their long-running joke wasn't funny at all. The punchline was me. "Hello, my name is Elias. I am 26 years old, the eldest son, and the one everyone calls the rock, the solid one. I am also the kind of person who uses a Ziploc bag not just for sandwiches, but to meticulously store spare batteries and a small emergency cash fund. I am the son who always ensures his rent is paid in full and always on time. I'm the guy who consistently arrives early for family cookouts because experience has taught me we always seem to run short on seating, so I bring my own folding chairs. If you were to ask my parents to describe me, responsible would be the first word out of their mouths. If you asked for a second word, it would likely be quiet. The absolute polar opposite is true for Julian, my younger brother. His effortless charisma and an infectious smile make him the hero of every social gathering, the kind of guy who can charm waiters into bringing complimentary desserts to the table. He is the one my parents are perpetually gushing about. Every family update call is a highlight reel of Julian's latest achievements. A promising new job, a sleek new car, a connection with a real estate friend who supposedly knows someone influential. The fact that Julian is sparkling, they would often say, almost like a religious incantation, is proof that we're thriving as a family. In this family orchestra, Julian was the lead vocalist, and I was merely the background hum. I started picking up extra shifts at work and still made time to show up at their house around the age of 20 to fix their unreliable Wi-Fi and change burnt-out light bulbs, all because I'd say things like, "Mom shouldn't be climbing a ladder," or "Dad's back probably hurts." It was around then that the joke stopped being remotely amusing. Not once did anyone ever check in to see how I was doing. Their only question was ever, "Who can you help?" 2 months ago, we all gathered at my parents' house to celebrate my mom's birthday. The air was a familiar mix of lemon-scented cleaner and the aroma of grilled chicken. Dad was wearing his finest polo shirt, a clear effort to elevate the occasion. My Aunt Lillian was fussing over the floral arrangements, constantly rearranging them. I arrived with a carrot cake I had purchased from a nice bakery downtown, the kind my mom loves, the one with an exceptionally generous layer of cream cheese frosting. Julian, of course, strode in late, carrying nothing but a dazzling smile and a story about almost meeting a venture capitalist from a startup, as if that alone was a winning prize. He brought no dessert, no card. Yet his presence was enough to make everyone laugh. We all took our seats for the gift opening. Mom received a lovely scarf from Aunt Lillian and a scented candle from the wife of my dad's coworker, among other small presents. Julian presented his gift in a small, elegant box, a pair of earrings. "They're real silver," he quipped with a theatrical wink. He remained silent on the question of who actually paid for them, but Mom gasped as if he had handed her the moon itself. I half expected a simple, "Thank you for the cake" to be directed my way. It was my own fault for having such an expectation. As I glanced over at my dad, he was refilling his wine glass. He looked at me and mumbled, "You know, Elias, you'll never be as good as your brother." He let out a chuckle, treating it as just another harmless family joke. Even my mom managed a small, complicit giggle. There was a chorus of chuckles around the table, but the loudest, most resonant laugh belonged to Julian. To me, however, that wasn't a joke. It was a declaration. My fork went down. I could feel the blood rush to my cheeks, a hot flush of shame and anger. In my mind, a silent tally began, 11 months of covering their electricity bill when my dad's hours at work were cut. 31 separate gas fill-ups for my mom's car when she needed a little help. 21 grocery transfer receipts sent because the fridge was empty and your brother is between paychecks. I was counting each one like a breath held too long. Aunt Lillian, noticing my tense expression, warned me not to be overly sensitive. She couldn't see I wasn't crying. My entire state of mind was shifting. Over the ensuing silence, my mother spoke softly. "We just want you to be more ambitious, Elias, that's all." In response, I reached for my glass of water, my hand trembling just slightly. I told myself to take it easy, to just laugh it off. I'm the peacemaker, don't rock the boat. Then Aunt Lillian looked across the table at Julian and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "You truly are the breadwinner." My mother gave a subtle nod of agreement. A faint, proud laugh escaped Dad's lips. "He's the one we can truly rely on." For some inexplicable reason, that was the line that broke me. Rely. It was such a powerful word. It struck the part of me that remembers account numbers, Wi-Fi passwords, and the exact model number of their refrigerator's water filter. It resonated with the part of me that keeps mental spreadsheets of due dates, bank transfers, and digital receipts. A profound silence engulfed me. I helped clear the plates, wipe down the counters, and put the leftovers away. As I reached for my coat to leave, my mom gave me a tight hug but deliberately avoided making eye contact as she muttered, "Try not to be jealous of your brother." As I was walking out, Julian gave my shoulder a patronizing squeeze. "Dude, don't take it so personally." Standing on their porch, the porch light flickering erratically above me, keys in my hand, I stood there transfixed. I could hear their laughter echoing through the window. I remembered the Zelle notification from earlier that day. I had sent my mom $220 for groceries. I had sent it with the same careless ease I always did. Her reply text didn't have a heart emoji or even a thank you. It simply read, "We love you. Bring paper towels next time. We're out." No expression of gratitude, just a list of demands. I quietly made my way home. I placed the carrot cake box in my refrigerator, even though it was now half empty. As I sat down on my couch, I opened the digital folder of receipts I had been subconsciously amassing for what felt like an eternity, almost like some bizarre, sad hobby. Little green check marks scrolled past my eyes. $80, $115, $400, $900. It was all a blur. The following morning, I listened to my dad's voicemail message twice. "Hey kiddo, don't be so dramatic. It was just a family joke." I chose not to answer the call. The next thing I knew, I was opening my banking app, scrolling back endlessly. It finally hit me that night. I wasn't just the quiet one, I was the punchline of the joke. While I was in the midst of that painful revelation, staring at the date of a utility transfer, my screen lit up with a group chat notification. "Family dinner on Sunday at 6:00. Don't forget," my mom wrote. As I stared at those words, a subtle but permanent shift occurred within me. As a dutiful son, I started setting aside money for them when I was 21. The power bill is a little high this month. Can you spot us $135? I'll pay you back on Friday, my dad had called to say one January after a major snowstorm. He never paid me back. Even though he never repaid me, he asked for money again in February, saying, "We're a bit short on gas money just until payday." By March, he was asking for grocery money on a weekly basis. I was earning $17.50 an hour working at a computer support desk. "Your mom's trying to stretch it," he'd say. My own studio apartment was furnished with a wobbly table and a sofa I had bought on Facebook Marketplace. I was financially strapped, but I could scrimp and save, sending $50 here and $75 there. It felt good to be of service. I was building trust, I assured myself. By the time I was 22, it had moved beyond spot us and into the realm of routine. Utility bills, a consistent $200, were sent out monthly. Gas money, $80 every third Sunday. And randomly on Wednesdays, anywhere from $40 to $100 for food. The monthly average for nearly 4 years was about $640, with some months being even higher. It cost them $470 to get new tires for their car. My initial $350 deposit for their broken water heater somehow became $150 plus another $250. "We'll square it up later," was the constant refrain. Julian, too, had a few unanticipated crises. He needed $200 to register for a certification exam. "His landlord is a jerk. Can you cover half his rent for this month? He had a slow month with his freelancing." Julian was a man of endless tales. Every time a transfer was needed, I handled it. The topic of repaying me was never even broached. It was simply assumed. Help, appreciation, and debt were all unspoken agreements in my family. Although my banking app didn't contain any emotional text, it did capture every single transaction. Once I made an effort to establish limits. I informed my mom that I would need to replenish my own savings before I could send any more money. A heavy, guilt-inducing sigh escaped her lips. That vow lasted for a mere 2 weeks before I broke it. "We'll die before we ask you again," she'd text, followed by a heart emoji and a shopping list. Sense was sent. She had that frightened tone in her voice, the one that could open any wallet whenever she said, "Just this once." And I understood all too well how an empty fridge felt. So I sent her a message. It involved both time and money. After watching 3 separate YouTube tutorials, I was able to fix their Wi-Fi, install a new thermostat, and replace a leaky faucet in their bathroom. I drove Julian to his job interviews. I completely rewrote his resume. Not only that, but I also gave him permission to use my stable address instead of his constantly changing ones. My mom would send me pictures of their bare pantry while packages with Julian's name on them, new sneakers, a drone, a high-end gaming headset kept arriving. My dad would make fun of my exhaustion by saying, "That's adulthood, kiddo." Aunt Lillian would chime in with, "Families aren't ledgers." Well, in our household, the ledger was in my pocket. The bias was glaringly obvious. If Julian brought takeout home even once, my mom would praise him for a week. After I offered to pay their entire electricity bill for 2 months straight, she simply assured me, "We're all doing our part." On Father's Day, I made the reservation and paid for our 4-person supper. "You shouldn't have." my dad remarked before immediately turning to Julian to probe him about his ambitious aspirations at some company where he wasn't even employed. The most frustrating part was their real-time rewriting of history. Last Thanksgiving, Aunt Lillian wanted to know who had helped with the broken water heater. My mom grinned, looking directly at Julian. I glanced at my bank app under the table and noticed that the plumber had received a deposit of $250 from my account. "Our boy made some calls," she boasted. I remained silent. Refraining from being overly dramatic is easier said than done. My personal existence, however, was quite insignificant. I wasn't struggling, but every week I would have to push off one of my own expenses or skip a dinner with friends because I had to send $200 at 3:00 p.m. for an immediate car insurance payment for them. I had hit a savings ceiling. When my coworkers planned a weekend getaway, I pretended I was busy. I opted out. My spreadsheet was always with me. I used to believe they were simply unaware. I mean, perhaps they had a hazy mental picture, but deep down I knew they were aware. Julian would text, "You're a lifesaver, man. I'll pay you back when my commission check hits." My mom would say things like, "You're so dependable." And my dad would call on my payday to just check in, before adding, "Since you're so good with money." So they knew. The commission was saved. It became new shoes. 3 specific instances are particularly noteworthy. The year I got my mother a weighted blanket for Christmas, she embraced me as if I had given her a gym towel. When Julian offered her a spa certificate that he had received for free from a friend, she sobbed with joy. When I woke up at the end of that night, I found a sticky note on the counter reading, "Elias, could you Venmo $150? We're a little short on rent." The second incident was when the brakes on my car needed immediate repair. I had to make a quick decision: pay my mechanic or give my parents the $220 they needed for their overdue power bill. I covered theirs. 3 weeks later, my mom shared a Facebook snapshot from a fancy restaurant. The caption read, "A much-needed date night." I zoomed in on the wine glasses until the pixels blurred. The third event was the lemon cleaner and chicken night, the night that brought on the "you will never be as good" laughs and the crushing weight of the word "rely" on my chest. That night, after their group chat message pinned me about the paper towels, I went back to the very first transfer I ever sent, $120 on January 14th, 2019. The note simply read, "Just until Friday." I included everything. My final tally came to $26,670. I didn't even include receipts for cash transactions, gas fill-ups, or the air conditioning repair that I charged to my own credit card. $26,670. That's enough for a new car, a down payment on a house, or a mattress large enough to sleep on without waking up in a panic at 3:00 a.m. One possibility was to print out the entire list. The thought of just destroying the screenshots and forgetting it all crossed my mind. I opted out. I brewed some tea. I sat there in the silence. I attempted to verbalize my emotions. It wasn't anger. It was the sound of a dry well, the feeling of complete and utter depletion. "Family jokes," was my dad's voicemail message the following morning, and I knew then that it wasn't a joke. It was a system. I served as the financial conduit for their stories while they were the storytellers. Systems continue to function until an operator deliberately turns them off, so the following text arrived promptly. "Julian, hey, you around? I'm $400 short on rent this month." I'd ask Mom and Dad, but you know they're tight. I'll hit you back when I can. You're the best. He even included a flexed bicep emoji. I lingered, staring at the screen. I typed out, "Let me think about it," before immediately erasing it. After a couple of days, my mom sent a text message with a smiling face emoji. "We need you on Sunday. Dad looked at the bills and it's not pretty. Bring your checkbook." Bring the bank book. The screenshot was there. It went unanswered. I skipped work for the day and opened a blank document. At the top, I typed transfers. I spent 2 hours listing quantities and dates. The document grew to 9 pages. I printed them out and placed them in an inexpensive binder I bought at the dollar store. Even if I wasn't sure I would ever use it, I had had enough of acting like this was all just air. On Sunday, the air was thick with that oppressive heat that comes before a thunderstorm. Arriving unprepared is a certain way to start an argument before it even begins. I parked 2 houses down and brought a shopping bag with paper towels inside. I rang the doorbell. My dad opened the door, his demeanor like that of a school principal. At the dining table, my mom had a stack of envelopes and a calculator. Julian was scrolling through his phone, his elbow resting on the counter. "At last," my mom said, brightening the mood. "We were just talking about our plan." "Great," I said, putting the bag down. My dad tapped the calculator. "We've been doing the numbers. With interest rates and inflation, we need a family approach. We're thinking everyone contributes monthly until things stabilize." "Everyone," Julian echoed, without making eye contact. I retrieved the binder from my bag and set it down on the table. "Before we talk about a new plan, can we talk about the last 4 years? Her eyes widened. "What's that?" "Receipts," I said. "Money I've sent for utilities, groceries, car repairs, rent, all of it. I might have missed a few." My dad's jaw clenched. "Elias, this is not the time to play accountant." "It's exactly the time," I replied. My mom groused as she reached for the binder and turned a few pages. Then she said it. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." A profound silence fell over the room. It wasn't quiet contemplation. It was a mist descending, the sound of gaslighting made manifest. I refrained from becoming angry. I slid my phone across the table. "Open my bank app. The transfers are all there, notes, dates. If you want, I can print out the statements." My dad pushed the phone back as if it were on fire. "This is disrespectful." "What's disrespectful is asking for my checkbook while simultaneously rewriting my life," I responded. "I've been covering your bills since 2019. I could list them one by one, but you can read." Julian finally raised his head. "Dude, why are you making this so weird? It's family." "Indeed," I retorted. "And family members don't try to hide from reality. They express gratitude." My mom's eyes widened. The Greatest Hits album was about to play. "After all we've done for you, you're going to throw money in our faces." I drew a deep breath. "I'm not throwing it, I'm acknowledging it." My hand was steady. "You've depended on me for years. You've called me dependable and then laughed about me being quiet while you assign me the bills. Today, I'm not being quiet." My father leaned in. "So what do you want, a parade, a medal?" "I want boundaries," I responded. "No more monthly transfers. No more emergency Venmos. If you need help, you ask in advance and you accept no for an answer." Julian scoffed. "Then have him pay all the bills," I said, looking at my dad. "If I'm never going to be as good as my brother, then let the golden child be the safety net for once." My mother's voice rose. "How dare you set your brothers against each other?" I retorted with composure. "You did that a long time ago." The air in the room seemed thick with gravity. My heartbeat didn't quicken. It had the steady rhythm of a metronome. I was afraid I might start to tremble. I did not. This isn't about getting even, I whispered, more quietly now. The muscles in my dad's jaw tightened as he said, "This is about closure, so you're cutting us off." "I'm ending a system that's been bleeding me dry," I informed him. "I'm not your bank, I'm your son." "We never asked you to," my mom said, her menacing gaze fixed on the binder. "You're exaggerating. Those were gifts. You did it because you love us." "I do," I clarified. "And loving you cannot mean bankrupting myself either financially or emotionally." "Whatever, man," Julian let out a harsh laugh. I slid the paper towels across the counter, grabbed my binder, and made my way to the door. "Elias," my mom murmured, her voice cracking, "don't walk away. You can't just." I put my hand on the doorknob and muttered, "I can." And I am. The door shut behind me like a full stop at the end of a very long sentence. Before I even reached my car, my phone buzzed with 12 missed calls. By the time I arrived at my apartment complex, it was 18, then 31. I set my phone on the counter, face down, and proceeded to cook pasta. I ate standing up, my gaze fixed on the binder as if it were a radioactive object. When I finally checked my phone, there were 47 unread messages. From my mother, "You're confused. Come back and let's talk this out." From my father, "You owe us the respect of a conversation." From Aunt Lillian, "Money isn't everything, sweetheart." And from Julian, "You really think this makes you the hero?" That night, I chose not to respond to any of them. I disabled all my alerts, scrubbed the sink clean, and was in bed by 9:30, the most uninteresting rebel in the world. I slept a full 8 hours for the first time in months. On Monday, the story machine began its work. "Heard you blew up at dinner. You okay?" my cousin texted. My grandmother left a 2-minute voicemail filled with moaning and sighs. My dad pinned a group message about being spoiled and losing sight of one's roots. My mom updated her Facebook status about her children's current activities, using the praying hands emoji. I had anticipated their wrath. It was the instantaneous revision of history that caught me off guard, like watching a television program airing with a completely incorrect screenplay. The narrative shifted from "we never asked for money" to "those were gifts" to "you never said it was hard." The messages became more evasive. I didn't intend to email them, but I did take screenshots of each version so I wouldn't have to rely on my own memory if things went wrong. I created PDF backups of the binder and stored them on my work computer. In the end, I did something small that felt monumental. I opened my banking app and canceled the 3 automatic transfers I had set up: utilities, gas, and groceries. The app prompted me. "Are you sure?" I responded affirmatively. Somehow, my chest felt both bare and buoyant. The calls continued to pour in. On one voicemail, my mom would coo, "We can start fresh." And on the next, she would alternate between crying and sounding like a stern customer service representative. Julian sent me a Venmo request for $400 with the note rent, and my dad tried to reason with me, saying, "We're a unit. Everyone does their part, so let's settle on $300 every month." I declined it. He sent back a single question mark. I remained silent. In the middle of the week, Aunt Lillian extended an invitation for coffee. "I assure you this is not an ambush," she promised. She began with a cloying, odorless hug before launching into a speech she had probably practiced in her car. "Let's not burn bridges over a simple misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding?" I inquired. The question seemed to confuse her. She beamed with the kind of smile that makes you feel like you're 5 years old again. "You embarrassed your parents, they feel attacked." "Math made them feel attacked," I explained. A heavy sigh escaped her lips. You know your mother, she worries. She says you didn't tell her you were keeping track of everything. So gratitude only counts if I don't keep a receipt. Got it, I put forward. Her eyes flew open. You're being unkind. I'm being accurate, I said. Before she could be nasty with her accuracy, I bought my own coffee and departed. By Friday, the mood had shifted again. The group chat went off about a family meeting on Sunday. I won't be there, I sent the message before my fears had a chance to alter my words. Don't forget who raised you, my dad immediately responded. You think you're better than us now, my mom shot back. You've always been jealous, bro, sad, Julian wrote. I turned off the sound notifications. I was quite specific while making my list of food items to buy. Berries, spaghetti, salmon, and a type of expensive yogurt that I typically don't buy because it's not essential. I purchased it. I consumed it with a spoon that felt proportional to my newfound limits. Afterwards, there were a few tangible shifts. I set up a new automatic savings transfer for myself, using the identical dates and amounts I had previously used for them. Seeing that $300 land in my own account on the first of the month was like opening a door. I scheduled a long-overdue dental appointment. I sought the assistance of a therapist, stating, I need help untangling guilt from responsibility. That's a job I do a lot, she said with a nod. At night, the urge to explain myself, to compose a lengthy, composed letter replete with images, lists, and I statements, buzzed at me like a persistent mosquito. I resisted. Explaining yourself to individuals who are determined not to listen is a form of performance art. It was too much for me to handle, and yet the pain persisted. The pain took me by surprise. My efforts to create a family with our finances and my silence had been futile, and I longed for the family I had imagined in my head. Woven throughout the bad memories were pleasant ones, like my mother's chicken noodle soup when I was sick, my father's patient instruction in changing a tire, and the times Julian and I had laughed at ridiculous memes. It's easier to keep up with a tax payment when you call it love. After the second week, the calls decreased. The guilt didn't disappear entirely, but it did fade. Afterwards, word of the new narrative began to spread. Raising kids is so hard when they forget your sacrifices. Some people think everything is about money. A neighbor shared a screenshot of my mom's post with me, and the sympathetic comments came pouring in. Julian uploaded a story to Instagram featuring his new sneakers, captioned self-made. I nearly chuckled at the caption, which simply said, prayers. He also included messages like, stay strong, and a joke about kids these days. My running career resumed. To put it mildly, my muscles required a release mechanism. I ran a third mile, then a fourth. I tuned into a podcast that discussed boundaries. The host instructed me to say no without a paragraph of explanation, so I practiced in front of the mirror. No! It almost seemed like a coded language. On the third Sunday of the month, I passed by my parents' house on my way to the gas station where I used to give them money. It was a consistent practice. I parked across the street and just sat there, motionless. Through the window, I could see them seated at the dining table. My seat was empty. I felt a mix of relief and loss. My hypothesis is that combination is what pain feels like. The following day, an unknown caller ID appeared. It was the wife of one of my dad's coworkers, the one who had given my mom the candle. Your parents are going through a tough time, she started. No, I responded. Absolute silence. You didn't even let me finish, she said. I didn't need to. I ended the conversation. No. There was no malice in it, just a complete sentence. I was fine after I ended the call. A week later, a collections agency emailed me. It was supposedly from my parents, but it had been sent to me because my address was on an outdated form. The bill was for $312. A year ago, I would have taken it calmly. This time, I forwarded it to my parents with the subject line, "This is your bill, not mine." I typed and deleted 20 different versions of an angry message before my mom's response came in. "Why are you being so cruel?" I put the laptop away. I got out and ran. When I returned, there was a message in my inbox not from my parents, but from Julian. "Be real, bro. We all know you like holding this over us. You always wanted to be the hero. Congrats, you win." My wrath welled up as I glanced at it, subdued but pointed. "I just wanted to be your son," was my response. His response was non-existent. That evening, I made a rule for myself that looks ridiculous when written down. I will not open my banking app after 9:00 p.m. Nothing in there at 9:00 in the morning will help my family. I set my phone down on the opposite side of the room. My goal was to rest. My current understanding is contained here. Even though I love them, I will not support their denial. Being reliable does not mean I am a doormat. I have the authority to decline and omit the paragraph of explanation intended to ensure everyone's comfort. Nobody owes me anything when I'm exhausted. Nobody owes me anything from my savings. I am not obliged to be the one who simplifies other people's lives at the cost of my own. There will be no more money transfers from me. Not because I'm always furious, although sometimes I am. It's not because I want them to hurt, but because I can't justify it anymore. Not for me. I've had enough of acting like nothing is wrong. On a case-by-case basis, I will assess if their requests for help are made in good faith, being explicit, detailed, and respectful. My limits are not the issue, and I will not stand for it if they try to guilt me or change the past. The binder is in my closet. I very seldom glance at it. It isn't a medal. It's proof that I'm not completely insane. It's a record. Whenever uncertainty arises, I open it, read a few lines, and then put it down. I can stop keeping score. The computation has been completed. My mom and dad still send occasional texts. They send photographs of the dog. For all the years I was of service, they have never once thanked me. They may never do it. That is their account to settle. Nowadays, mine is different. My name is Elias, the sentence commences. However, reliable is absent at the conclusion. Honoring oneself is the last step. I'm establishing a fresh pattern. Pancake and a jog on Sunday mornings are my new jam. My personal savings are to be deposited on the 1st of every month. On the 3rd Sunday, I like to call a friend and make plans so I don't back out. Close the binder. This isn't about revenge. That sums it up perfectly. It's the one line I wish someone had told me when I was 21. This pertains to finalization. Lastly, I make this solemn vow to myself. I will not allow anyone to treat my love like a line of credit.